right, welcome in, guys, to the Thursday World Cup breakdown. We have another six-gamer. Got the second day of matches closing out, or groups closing out here. Was a wild day yesterday. I think we get something similar today. I mean, some definite surprises in terms of what happened, not really in the first group of games, but the second and third groups from yesterday were just kind of wild. Like Brazil scoring, obviously they outmatched Scotland, I thought, but they'd been kind of slow, and I knew Scotland wanted to slow the game down. They just weren't able to really do that, and kind of got away from them. And then the other game, we were super heavy on. What did that game end up? The Morocco-Haiti game. I think it was like 4-2, but Haiti kept scoring there early on, and probably pushed Morocco even farther for them to score goals. So that was nice, at least to see. Definitely a wild day. And then last night, I mean, we talked about teams that really don't have anything to play for. Mexico rotated slightly on their side and still won that one pretty handily. So that was interesting. So let's get into today. I'm going to go through each group again like we did for yesterday. The first games today are going to be Germany, which is Group E. They have already clinched, much like Mexico. Yesterday, they will go up against Ecuador. Not an easy matchup. Ecuador does need to win. You're going to see so none of these teams are eliminated in this group. So all teams, like I said with Mexico yesterday, Germany's probably going to rotate their players slightly, but whoever is in, I expect them to try hard, play well. It's a World Cup. They're not just going to go out and roll over and let Ecuador win just because they need to. Ivory Coast and Curacao, both these teams need to win too. Ivory Coast can lock up second, I think, in the group with a win. So they're going to be going for that. They want to make sure that they get through. I mean, technically, if they lose this game to Curaçao's ahead of them now. Ecuador beats Germany. They're ahead. They're now eliminated. So Ivory Coast needs to play well. They're big favorites today. We'll touch on that. The second group of games is Group F. Netherlands leads that group right now with Japan. Netherlands is going up against Tunisia, who is eliminated. You've got, let's see. So Tunisia, like I said, with the team yesterday who was eliminated, Tunisia is still going to try hard. They're going to put their best group out. I don't think that they're just going to roll over, but Netherlands is a massive favorite today. Needs to really try hard. They need to win this. They want to win this group. Probably means a much better matchup if they do. Japan and Sweden both need points, need to win. So none of these teams are going to rotate hardly at all in terms of just putting backups in. So again, another set of games that really everybody needs to play. Well, Tunisia's eliminated, but again, they're going to put their best foot forward and try at least. Not that we're going to be super heavy on them. USA's group tonight, they match up with Turkey. Turkey is eliminated. USA has already locked up first in the group. Expect a heavily rotated USA, dealing with some injuries here and there. So I clearly expect, we'll touch on them when we get there, a rotated side with the USA. But again, World Cup, I expect the guys who are in to try. And Turkey is a decent matchup. I think there's, again, they're playing for pride. I think they're not going to just roll over and let the USA win. Do we get a ton of goals? Maybe, maybe not. We'll kind of touch on the matchup. But then Australia and Paraguay both need to win. Both need some points out of this to try to get into whether they finish third or potentially one of them is going to get second in the group. So very interesting game there. So I would just watch out for the starters for USA and Germany for the most part, and see how rotated those sides are. But again, not really a setup where I think, oh my gosh, these guys aren't going to play, which is going to be similar throughout the rest of the game threes of the group. Odds for the first group today, Germany's group, Ivory Coast is a minus 525 favorite, implied for 3 goals now. That totals up to 3.25. Curacao, only a quarter implied. Germany still implied for 2.25, even though they don't need to do anything here. Ecuador being plus 385, they're implied for 0.75. Netherlands, biggest favorite on the slate, they're implied for 3.09. You can see how close those totals are, even with looks like a bigger favorite with Netherlands. Tunisia implied for 0.16, not going to have much interest in them. Sweden, Japan is a favorite here. They've looked pretty good, honestly. Sweden, not great to me. I think the line is probably about right in that one. Australia and Paraguay, lowest total on the slate. Both need points. 1.75 total. Paraguay is favored, implied for 1.1. And then the USA, still a favorite, still implied for nearly 2 goals against Turkey, who's implied for about 1. So let's go into the projected lineups, go game by game. I don't have all the highlights done yet, so there may be some players that I touch on that aren't highlighted. Those will be updated as we go through. After I get off the show here, we'll go ahead and have that fully updated. Ivory Coast, first game today, pretty big favorite. It's nice that we're going to get their lineup as one of the most important teams today, because there are some changes depending on who's in there for them. Right now, their set pieces would be in this lineup would be a majority to Nicolas Pepe, only 6K forward. I think he's a great play if he's in. Amad Diallo and Yandi Amandi also take some sets, and they're fairly reasonable in terms of price as well. I think all those guys are mostly, this entire team is in play. But Pepe, if he's in, would probably be the majority set piece guy. If he's not in, Diallo and Diamande will fully split, I would expect. Definite, great plays all through Ivory Coast. Bonnie, 4,800 only. He's a great play if he's in and starting. Wahi is another guy who could start. We'll see who the starter is there. Sinagre, 3,800. Christ, 3,900. We're just going to go that. Olahi, both those guys. I mean, you got super cheap plays. The fullbacks are fine. Douye and Conan are fine as well. Definitely super interested. Going to have probably a good amount of exposure to Ivory Coast for sure. Curacao, not really interested in anybody for them. Comencia, 3,300. Have they even had any sets? Yeah, so they had Antonis, who's not projected, took for 45 minutes 3 corners in their first game, but Bacuna has had some sets. Well, which Bacuna? Leandro, he's 3,700. He's had some for them. On a 6-gamer, when you start touching on these teams, it's just not something I want to get involved with. Germany and Ecuador. Germany probably going to see a rotated side. We see Voltermade expected. We see Llewellyn, Undav, who scored 3 goals so far off the bench in both games. Just probably a fully rotated side. Joshua Kimmich still projected in. If he's in, he would have sets. David Raum could also get some sets. I think he's a pretty good play. 6,400 is kind of a tough price tag to get to, though. And then you can still take a shot. I mean, this team's implied for 2.25 goals. You can take a shot on some of these others, but look at their price tags. Like, not really in love with any of these price tags. Even Kimmich at nearly 8K. Ecuador, tough matchup, even with the rotated side. Their set pieces, we've seen Caicedo take, Gonzalo Plata has also taken, has also taken some sets. So all those guys, it's kind of just a mix. Caicedo is only 4,800. He's okay, but again, they're not going to have like a super floor just with this matchup with Germany. Any of these guys, Inter Valencia, 6,700. Wish he was a little bit cheaper. You could possibly take a shot on him. You got to think he gets across the line with a goal at some point. He's had 5 on target, 8 shots so far through the couple games, just not scored any. Estupinian was the guy that I was on in the last game. He was not great, but he's okay. William Pacho for 3,400 is a decent price. I think you can go there. Just not a great matchup for them against Germany. Not a ton of interest in that game in general with some of the other spots we have on the slate. Netherlands and Tunisia, going to have a ton of interest in Netherlands, but we're going to need the lineup here. Their set pieces so far through the first couple games have been Reinders, who is projected in again, but in this case we have potentially Memphis Depay starting, who would also take on the majority of set pieces. If he was on, I think he's a really good play in this matchup if he does start, of course. Reinders would kind of fall back, and he's 8,400. He's not even been great with sets, a majority of sets, to be honest with you. So he's kind of a secondary look for me in general. For me to play him, I'm going to need to pie out. Kupenmeyers is not in the projected right now, but he could start. He could have some sets. Just need to see what combination that we get of Netherlands. Like if Memphis is on, he's going to have the majority, and then maybe Reinders or Kupenmeyers, whoever starts there, would probably have the secondary sets. If Memphis is out, look for one of those other 2 guys, could have the set pieces. Gakpo crushed in the last game. I think he's a great play again, 9,900. Malin, great play in this matchup. A little more goal dependent, of course, than like a Gakpo who does a little bit of everything. But I think all these guys are good plays. And we have a lot of value that we can take advantage of with like Ivory Coast and some other spots to go to. Gravenberch has had a couple assists so far. I think he's fine. 4,900 cheap attachment to Netherlands as a -950 favorite. Denzel Dumfries got going in the last game. I think he's a great play. Gets super forward, very involved in their attacking. And, I know 7,400 is kind of a tough tag to get to, but he's a great play. Frankie de Jong doesn't do a ton in the midfield for DFS purposes. And the fullback or the center backs, the back 3 are kind of tough to get to. Like Virgil van Dijk, 6K, I can't pay that. I don't care what the matchup is. He'll now score, so if you want to go play him. Van Hecke or Van de Ven, I would rather take a shot on them, even though they're probably less likely, not by much, less likely in the odds to score, it looks like. But definitely tons of interest in Netherlands. On the other side for Tunisia, we've seen their set pieces be a mix of guys. Hannibal he took in the first game, but then when Ben Slimani took in the second game after being in the entire first game. So I don't I don't really know what to take from that. This is not a matchup where they're going to have a big floor anyway. Jan Valeri is still only 2,900. He should get forward somewhat. Ali Abdi, 4K. He has a roll of set pieces. Hannibal Mejbri, 4,700 as well. These are guys that I generally like, but not in this matchup. Like, I just don't think they're going to have a bunch of a role here that we need to get excited about. I think there's other good plays, other good values on the slate. Sweden and Japan in the other game in the middle. Here, Japan as a favorite. Their projected lineup right now that I have in there is a little weird. I don't know what to expect in terms of what the set pieces would be. Like Junya Ito, I am hoping that he starts again because I think he's a great play. Kamada also could take, and he did not, has not taken. Let's see. Like, I just feel like at least one of those guys is going to start. Maybe I need to go back through and kind of update the set pieces a little bit. Like, I really don't know right off who would take. Maybe Maeda would take set pieces with this projected lineup, but I think Junya Ito starts again. He's looked really good to me in this tournament. Doan, I think he's a fine play at 4,900. Ao Tanaka in the midfield is only 39. Definitely interested in some Japan pieces because I think this Sweden defense has just looked abysmal so far. And I think Japan's attacking has looked really good so far. I think they're a good team. And Sweden, I don't really think is. So pretty good lineup. Run out for Japan and get some of those guys like a I'm blanking, Junya Ito that we can play in the mid-range. For Sweden, Ayari and Benjamin Nygren have split sets pretty exclusively. Ayari's looked really good, 2 goals so far. He's had a great floor as well, 6,400. I think he's a good play. Nygren has now, I think he's came down in price some, so he's a little more affordable. And then the forwards, Gaokers and Isak are both tournament-only options. They've come down a little bit as well. So definitely interested in getting exposure to this game. I just think that those guys are very secondary to the Japan pieces here. I think you're probably looking like a 2 or 3-1 Japan win in this one. So kind of build as you see fit there. I think Japan is a mismatch for Sweden. All right. Australia and Paraguay. Let me touch on something I wanted to look at for Tunisia. Yeah. Okay. Australia and Paraguay. Close game, super low prices is all that keeps these guys in play because this is a 1.75 total. Like, you're going to need the floors probably to come out. Paraguay is the slight favorite, so we'll start with them. Their set pieces have been the few that they've had has mostly all been Enciso, who's 8K. He's a good play. I was kind of worried about his minutes coming into the tournament, but 90 and 89 in the first 2 games. I think he's in play again just because of that floor that he can still rack up, even if he's not involved in some goal scoring stuff. But he's probably going to need to on a slate this big for him to get there. Gallarza, 4,100 in the midfield. He's okay too. Depending on who we see start, like Mauricio could also have a share of set pieces. He's 4,200. He only played in the first game and came off the bench and scored. Junior Alonso is only 2,800 at fullback. I think he's a fine play. Gomez was a guy that I think should have a share of sets, but we just haven't seen it. They haven't had a good volume of set pieces in the first couple games, so I think he's okay as well. If we see Pita, I think he's a good forward option, only 4K. So definitely some things that we can look at here for Paraguay. We just don't want to go overboard on this game in general, but there are good prices. Australia, their sets have been, I think, mostly Connor Metcalf. Yeah, so Connor Metcalf and Aiden O'Neill. Metcalf only played a half off the bench last game and didn't take any, but when it was O'Neill and him in the first game, starting. It was a split between those two. Metcalf better goal scoring odds. He's only 4,300 too. O'Neill 3K. I mean, he's got a share of sets, but not really something that I want to get super down in. But 3K is a pretty good price for somebody with attachment to set pieces, and he's probably going to have definitely a share no matter what the lineup is, which is nice. Italiano, who 3,600, he's okay too. He's been crossing a decent amount. Definitely some pieces for Australia, just because of the price tags, but not a ton. I don't want to go overboard. So what? Which team, Sean? I'm assuming you're meaning somebody in this game. I would probably max Australia and Paraguay both at 1 on this slate. I just don't want a ton of exposure to this game. Yeah, Paraguay definitely one-offs. I mean, like I go in a little more in depth on these teams just because there are showdowns, there are late slates. On the 6-gamer, I think yes, max Paraguay, max Australia at 1, in any format probably, because there's just so many other spots. I mean, like you've got Ivory Coast, who's super cheap. We don't really need to go to a 1.75 total with these teams implied for just over a goal, and we can go to cheap value of a team that's implied for 3. So there's kind of where you're looking at. I'll have a lineup with Ivory Coast stacked 2 and 3. Yeah, definitely going to be a nice way to go today is to focus on Ivory Coast and Netherlands. But I would max each team in this game at 1 for sure. In any format. USA and Turkey, I'll touch on this at the end, and I'll kind of rank them. Again, though, rankings will be on the sheet as well by position, but I'll touch on just a few top value players, rank them across the slate here at the end. Last game of the night, USA and Turkey. USA is a -117 favorite, implied for about 2 goals still, even with the rotated lineup. Haji Wright is projected to start. Serginho Dest, Weston McKennie still in there. Freeman still in there. And then you see, the rotation. So it's Gio Reyna, Sebastian Berhalter, Malik Tillman is still in there. But that's a guy that would be kind of tough for me if he is starting to go ahead and play. I don't think, this is not, to me, a game where I think USA just full-on controls. Just with this rotated lineup, like I think we're a team that needs our starters to look as good as we have in the last couple games, to be honest. And if we get this rotation, like definitely still interested in a couple pieces, but you also have to remember that, like, even on the 6-gamer, somewhat there's going to be a USA bump on some of these prices. Like Gio Reyna and Sebastian Berhalter, if Tillman's not in, could have a share of sets. Those guys are fine. I just have a hard time getting to maybe anybody from this USA team, even though we're still favorites. I just don't really have a guy who jumps out to me. We don't have like a monopoly set piece taker. We don't have like a super high implied goal scorer. Even though we're still favored, I just don't really. We don't have Anthony Robertson, who's just going to get forward and cross at defender. Like, just not a ton of interest for me in the USA today on the 6-gamer. Turkey, still, there's a couple pieces that I would like to get to from Turkey. Like I said, I don't think we being the USA gets full on tons of possession and controls this game here. So I think there's going to be opportunity for Turkey floor pieces to get there. Ardra Guler, 8,800. I mean, he's got the share sets with Kalinoglu. I think both those guys are in play. They're a little bit tough to get to, I guess, at the price tags as a dog here, implied for just about a goal. But they have really good floors, and I don't think that U.S. is going to stop them from getting there in this matchup. And again, these guys are still going to play. Like, they're not just going to, even though they're eliminated, they're not going to roll over. Yilmaz has crossed more than I would think. Gould, 4,600. He's a decent, just cheap forward option, I guess. I just expect this game to be pretty low scoring. Like, I think I would take, it's 2.75. Like, I would take the under. It's the Asian handicap. I would take the under on that in this one. I think we're looking at like a 1-1 or a 1-0, maybe a 2-0 game, something like that. I don't think this game goes over 3, to be honest. Couple questions or comments, Sean. So you meant would you max any team? Yeah, just like Dakota said here, I would max probably every team at 2. And again, I haven't built yet, except for Netherlands and Ivory Coast. And then there are some teams that I would max at 1. If you're like setting rules in an optimizer or something like that. That's pretty much it on the 6-gamer. I will touch on just a couple. My favorite values in general are going to be mostly from those teams, like I said, especially Ivory Coast. And I love that this is going to be the first set of games that we're going to get the lineup for before we lock up anything. Because if Bonnie's starting, I think he's my number 1 value on the slate today. I think Sinagre and Olahi are probably, those are my top 3 values, and that splits between 2 positions. No. The rest, like, there's not really any great values for Netherlands. Gravenberch is pretty decent. Honestly, like, some of the pieces for Paraguay are probably next in line for like a super cheap value range. I just don't really see, like, Ecuador's matchup is just kind of not something I want to get a value. Germany doesn't have value, really. Neither does Netherlands. Tunisia, massive 20-1 dog. Like, I don't want to get exposure to that. Japan could potentially have some value with like Maeda. I mentioned that, depending on who starts for them, I probably got a lot of interest in like a Doan. He's a really good value. Kamada is a good value if he starts. And then so Japan will have some pieces, but again, we're not going to know those starters early on. That's the second group of games, I believe. Yeah. Sweden doesn't really have any value that I want to get to. And then you get to this game. I mean, you've got Metcalf, 4,300, Paraguay. You've got some pieces for them that I think you can definitely get to, like Pitta if he's starting. Junior Alonso is only 2,800. He's a fullback. Doesn't have to do a ton to get there. Gallarza is okay as well. So and then Metcalf would have a share of set pieces, and Aiden O'Neill as well on the other side for Australia. Real quick, I do want to touch on our showdown tool. Still, running that each day, it's a lot harder with a 6-gamer, to be honest, to run all of the showdowns that we need every day, especially on weekdays. Like today, I have the first games. I can run it for both in the chat. Let me see if I can. I'm just gonna. It may take me a minute to do. Look, I'm gonna do this for. Let me see what and I'll share my screen to kind of show you guys what this is. I'm gonna run it for one of these. Let me pop up. So our first, or I could just run it for the USA. Let's just run it for the USA one tonight, because I think that's the biggest showdown probably that we've got. Yeah, there's not any big ones early on. Let's run it for USA today. It's going to take me just a sec to do. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to talk through what the tool is while I'm doing this. It is a showdown tool that is going to be very helpful as we go through the rest of this tournament, as we get bigger showdown slates later on, especially for the USA games and for the final. That basically we're going to give it our projections. We're going to give it all the players' stats, and it builds out what this player's role is. We're going to tell it who's on set pieces. It's going to pick up on that, penalties, what the role is in general, and then we are going to build out based on a certain script. Let me stop sharing for a sec. We're going to build out based on a script what we think this game does. And I don't have all the projections up right now, and there's a ton of question marks depending on who starts in these games. So I'm going to have to do a little manual changes. But it's going to build out the script and what players would be good in that script. And it's going to adjust our projections based on what we're telling it is going to happen in the game. I think that's super important when we're building showdown lineups. We talk a lot about building for certain things to happen, building a game script, and like other sports, we talk about this in like NFL showdown as well. So let's see. I said that it was going to be a low-scoring game. Let's do 3. Let's see. And soccer is like clearly one of those that we need to do it for. So if we So we're working on that right now. Soccer is one of those where we clearly need to tell it, this is what's going on in the game, because any game script depends on who we need. Like goalies are the easiest example. Like if this game goes 2-1, we probably don't need a goalie. If it goes 1-0, we probably need a goalie. But there are certain, it's not hard rules that are built into this, except for a couple. There are outliers. Like in a low-scoring game, you could have one side get a super big amount of saves. Like we've seen it multiple times in this tournament already. And I'm just gonna. It's a lot easier to see when I show you the output. So, and a lot of the guys in the chat have seen it and seen how beneficial it is. And I'm still working on it, of course, to get it to where it needs to be. And it's doing better and better every day. Let's see here. I should have done this before the show, but it's trying. So, like, for example, if we have a goal-dependent play that we put in the captain, we're probably not playing the depending on what we tell it the goal script is. Like, we're not going to play 3 goal-dependent players for the USA or any team if we think that it's a low-scoring game. We're going to play more floor pieces. We're going to play guys like Guler and Kalinoglu on one side, Yilmaz, who's been good on one side. We're going to play maybe 1 or 2 more goal-dependent, like Haji Wright, plays like that. So it's not working. This is unfortunate. I wanted to do this for the U.S. game. Well, I don't know that it's going to load, unfortunately. probably where I'm streaming as well. All right, there we go. All right, so let me get this fully ran here. Any questions on the slate in general? Any questions about the showdown tool? Drop them in there. All right, so all right. All right, get that saved. So this is always done after lineups come out, usually. I will run this and I post basically the builds into the chat in Discord, which is going to give just some different ways to go. I have people in the chat that give me certain scripts for certain games that they want ran, and I just attach that to what I think the game is going to go. And like I said, this is going to be this would really help, and it's what I built it for, is to help with multi-entry when I want to build 20 teams and cover different scripts. So all right, it's running right now. I had to get some things saved in there for this game specifically. And then I will share my screen to it, and we will look at it. Are the Netherlands and Ivory Coast the two highest implied goal teams? Yes, they are. As you can see on the sheet here, Netherlands is implied for 3.09, Ivory Coast 2.98, Germany would be third at 2.25. All right, so what I'm running here for the USA game is a 2-0 and a 1-0 USA win, a 2-1 USA win, and a 1-1 draw. And then, all right, there we are. Let me pop that open. Let me share it over to this page. There we go. Move, share. All right, so this is the output. We have what we have here, and this is very just quickly ran. Like, this is of course not. That is my goal. It is. I'm trying to figure out how to push this into where I could give it to people and have people be able to use it. But like right now, I'm trying to get all the bugs kind of filtered out of it first off, and then second off would be right now I've built it like on my computer through coding, so it's I've got to figure out, maybe I can translate that over to like a site that people get access to in the Discord. But yes, that is my goal. If I can get that figured out, I would love to have that up by later on. And when we get these big contests, like I know the 100K to first is going to be for the final. So just to talk through this, this is the generic output of it. And you can already see, like with these projected lineups, it's again kind of hard, but a 2-0 USA win. We go with Tillman, who is, a set piece taker, and you can kind of see a goal creator, set piece guy. You have Ardra Guler, a set piece guy on the other side, because they're again, implied to not score in this scenario. Berhalter and Gio Reyna could have a share of sets, so we get more floor, and then Dest, a more floor piece for the USA. Tillman, in this case, is the guy who's implied to be involved in the goals. And then we're going to take the goalie, Freese, in a 2-0 script. When you go to more like a 1-1 script, it's more even in terms of who is generating fantasy points. Now we have Guler at captain with Yildiz, who's a decent mid-range play for them. Kalinoglu, the other floor guy. So we want a lot of floor guys who are going to get involved in that one goal. Yildiz would be the guy who probably in this script maybe scores it. But all three of those guys have had a good floor of shots as well. And then on the USA side, you get basically in this, again, the projected lineup, I don't think it's going to be exactly right. But Tillman, Berhalter, and Reyna, you have mostly floor pieces there, but also Tillman, who can get involved in a goal. Any of those guys could get involved in a goal. Gio Reyna, of course. When you go into, and then I can tell it to build however many teams I want, right? So I can go right now, just the default for what I've been doing is like, I want 5 teams of each script that I give you on this sheet. But like if I did this on a mass scale, like I could multi-enter 20, I could enter 150. And I know going in that all these teams are going to be built in a way that I feel that fits the script. I'm still, what I mean by bugs, like I'm still kind of looking out for some of the things that I deem to be kind of weird constructions, but weird things can happen in Showdown, right? So like Freese, I don't know that I would want in a 2-0 USA win as captain. But I think he's okay. Like he can still rack up saves, but if you play him and he gets enough saves to be optimal in a 2-0 script, like you need something kind of weird to happen, right? So you need like Guler to just rack up a good but not massive floor. And we don't have, this is a 5-1 USA where you get pieces of their goals, right? But where are we getting enough Freese points in this? You may need like an own goal in that script. You may need, something like that to where I would much rather have him as a captain in like a 1-0 script where we go with something more like this. And some of these overlap, like 1-0, 2-0 are very similar in what you want. 2-1, just to look at kind of a different 2-1. So like Berhalter, something's weird with this. See, this is what I mean. The salaries are not. Oh, here's my problem. I didn't go through and fix these teams probably don't even work because I didn't go through and fix the salaries of the plays. Again, just trying to hurry and kind of show you what this is, but it doesn't even. I'm sure none of these teams even work. Like you probably can't play any of these teams, but just to show you what the tool is first off and what the constructions do. I'm using salaries from the main slate, and I just was trying to hurry. So these teams probably don't work, but this is something that will be ran, right? So we like to see the structure of what these teams are. It dropped down. I don't know if my stream went low, but it dropped down to only one person there watching it. Now it's back up. So if you guys missed, I just said that probably none of these teams work, but it shows you the structure because these teams I used the main slate salaries because I was trying to hurry. I didn't change them to the Showdown salaries. So none of these teams probably work to throw in, which may be good for this video. So we're not just throwing in all these teams that are fully built out. But this does show you kind of what some of the things are doing depending on what scripts we get. So I'll have that up I was looking at some of these Showdown slates today. the first set of games is not very good in terms of what we get for showdown. I think there's like a 5K showdown for Ecuador, Germany, but not much. And then the Sweden, Japan game, we have a 5K, and then the USA game. There's a chance that it's only ran for the USA Turkey game tonight, unless somebody wants it for these two first games, because I will have time to do those, but I'm not going to have time to run it for the 7 o'clocks. But again, I'll get it ran for sure for the USA Turkey about 8:30 when those lineups come out. So that's all I've got. I know I went a little longer today. I'll kind of plan this out. Maybe I'll run one of these with projected lineups beforehand tomorrow. Quick for question. Yeah, so you've got a lineup reserved for every showdown. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm gonna run. I can run it for these 4 o'clock games, but that's part of like what Sean was saying. I want to get this out to where everybody can use it, to where they don't have to plug in. Maybe I update the lineup some way, and they don't have to plug it in. They can just kind of run, tell it what script they want. It's going to take me a little bit of time though, unfortunately, to get that transferred into like a website version to where it can be used. So I will have it ran. I can run it for Ecuador, Germany, Curacao, Ivory Coast today. Can't get to the 7s, and then I'll get to USA at 10 for sure. So good luck to everybody today. Love the interaction in the chat. If you've not joined us, grab a copy of the sheet in the description of the video through Patreon. You can get $3 for the day, $15 for the month, which will get you through the rest of the World Cup, or $25, and you can get all of our sports that we're covering, which is mostly all of them that they offer on DraftKings. So good luck to everybody with the World Cup. 6-gamer today, a little bit later of a lock, so we've got some time. We will see you back tomorrow for the next 6-gamer.